Thank you very much. I couldn't be more pleased than to have been asked to present Tom as our honoree this evening. I'm a 1974 graduate of Brown. Tom was 2 years behind me in the days when freshmen had to play on a freshman team in their first year. So we were teammates for my senior year, and I was the first assistant for Tom's junior and senior years on the varsity. He was not much to look at athletically. Sorry, Tom. Played well above his athletic ability. The first time we ever spoke may have been on the practice field when Tom was either a freshman or a soph. I'll let him decide whether or not to describe that conversation that we had on the field. We became close during those years and were somewhat of an unlikely couple. The thin, long-haired Jewish kid from Park School in Baltimore and the public school Irish, Italian, Catholic football jock from Long Island. What I would say is that we both learned a little something at Brown about a responsibility to serve the larger community. I've certainly enjoyed following Tom's career over the years. While a little disappointed he hasn't called me for a movie role. And it's been especially gratifying to have him involved with Harlem lacrosse. We caught back up a few years ago at a Harlem fundraiser in LA, and like most of the conversations when old lacrosse players gather, it was easy to start telling the old stories and embellishing those college memories. If I told you that Tom, while he may not look the part, was a ferocious competitor on the lacrosse field, I think the people who know him from the business world would confirm that that quality is carried over. One quick story. In 1976, we're playing an important late season game at Penn. Tom takes a shot from 10 to 12 yards out, ducks his head as he follows through. Penn defenseman charging out from the crease hits Tom on the top of the head and he goes down in a heap. I come out onto the field, and I believe my first comment to him was, "Hey Tom, you were outside your range." Our old-time dear trainer Joe Castro, who was an ice-it-down, six-pack of beer guy, gave Tommy the green light to go back in the game. He finishes the game, we win and go on to the NCAA playoffs. Meanwhile, Tom winds up in the emergency room that night, diagnosed with a broken neck, out for the rest of the season, and ended his playing career. I don't recall ever hearing him complain. At the same time, Tom, I'm certain we would have beaten that number one seed, undefeated Frank Urso-led Maryland team we saw in the first round of the playoffs if you were available. I believe there's a spirituality in our game. I believe it derives from the game's Native American roots and that it connects us all in a unique way that is not to be taken for granted. Tom and I had a teammate, my roommate and perhaps my closest friend, who's a Mohawk Indian from the St. Regis Reservation in upstate New York. David White introduced me recently at a function saying, "Lacrosse has always been Dom's good medicine." I believe he was right, and I would say the same applies to Tom. I tell young players all the time that if you treat this game with respect, it can be your friend for a long time. And that's why most of us are in this room. The reason we're all gathered here this evening is because the qualities that made Tom a special teammate in lacrosse and a friend for all these years are now focused on his relationship with Harlem lacrosse. I've been involved with Harlem for over 12 years now, and my initial role was actually introducing Harlem to the college game. In all those years, I don't recall a single instance of a college coach or a player ever saying no to some request for equipment, coaching, mentoring, and the like. It has been the same no-nonsense approach for Tom. Listening to Mike talk, Tom's, what do you want from me? What can I do here? Once Tom came to actually see the work that Harlem is doing, he's become one of its most ferocious advocates and generous benefactors. I know we have a number of college players. I think there are actually some other Ivy Leaguers in the room, perhaps, in the audience tonight. I'd like to encourage all of you to follow Tom's example. Take a closer look. The game that we all love is truly helping young people of an unlikely urban demographic to have a real chance at breaking the cycle of poverty and underrepresentation. When I was first introduced to Harlem lacrosse in 2012, it was a middle school program in 2 schools, PS 149, Sojourner Truth School, and Frederick Douglass Academy in just this one city. What still floors me today is it will have 250 Harlem grads going off to college in the next 2 years, almost 60% of whom are first generation. I'm a cynic when I hear people talking blindly about the necessity to grow the game. Does that mean more clubs, more summer tournaments, less multi-sport athletes, more expensive equipment, legalized gambling on the pro level, etc.? What has kept me involved with Harlem is the sense that this is much more about grow the child, one at a time. Lacrosse is our unlikely tool, but if that is about helping one child at a time, I'm okay with that. Because of people like Tom, we're able to reach more of these young men and women, and it's making a life-affirming difference. Again, it is such a pleasure for me to present my friend Tom Rothman, Brown Lacrosse 76, as our honoree this evening.